thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Please be seated. Here we go. I have received apologies for Councillors Tim Crumpton and Councillors Adrian Hughes, Kader Zada and Parmjit Sahota. Are there any other apologies? Are there any prior declarations of interest made under the Members' Code of Conduct that haven't been published online? Interests previously disclosed by members at meetings are recorded in the minutes of the White Book, which has also been published online. All these interests will be taken as read. They are deemed as repeated at this council meeting. I now invite members to declare any additional interests. I move that the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of October 2023 be confirmed as a correct record and signed. Does the council agree? That is carried. It is my sad duty to report on the recent death of former councillor and Mayor Bill Cody. Bill Cody served on the council between 1986 and 1998, and then 2002 to 2004, representing Netherton and Woodside, and then Wordsley. He was mayor in 1996 to 97. Can I ask the council to stand for a minute of silence as a mark of respect to Bill Cody? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to speak about Bill because I'm probably one of the very few in the chamber that actually remember him servicing here. Although we're on opposite sides, we always had a good relationship. And I know exactly what a good service he did in a lifetime with the West Midlands Ambulance Service, which was very noticeable from conversations I had with him over the years. As you rightfully say, he served the good folk in Netherton and also in Wordsley for all that period of time. One of the things I often remember about him is when he was mayor, he's actually visiting Sedgley, but I thought it was probably a bit strange for him to come out of his normal environment to come to the very north of the borough. And that was to celebrate the centenary of Queen Victoria Schools in Bilston Street in Sedgley. And I can stand here, Madam Mayor, and say that his name still appears on the commemorative plaque of his visit outside the school to this very day. But all I can say really is that he did a wonderful service for us, not only for the council in the period he served, as you rightfully say, 12 months before myself, and I've been about a long time. Then he had a break, and then he went to Wordsley and did a couple of years down there. And I think the reason what happened afterwards is because we're going through a similar exercise today as what we did 20 years ago with the boundary changes. And so it was an all-out election in 2004, the year he was up for election. And I'm sorry, historically, I can't tell you whether he stood as a candidate or what actually happened in 2004 at those elections. But for what he did for this council and for the relationship that I had with him and for the work he did for the West Midlands Ambulance Service and the community as a whole. As you know, Madam Mayor, he's been a regular participant on former mayors' groups up until quite recently. And I found out about the sad news last Thursday and reported back to the office. But my relationship with him was always very good, and that's what I try to be with most people that are sitting in here tonight. I do my best for everyone. But all that I can say is rest in peace, Bill, and thank you for the service you give the community and to this council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. That I rise to pay tribute to the life and public service of Bill Cody. Madam Mayor, the first time I set foot in this room, it was 1996. I was 15 years old and it was the annual general meeting of the council. I was my mum's guest at Bill's mayor-making dinner, and it was really quite a grand affair back in those days. As you'll know, it's customary for the new mayor to circulate the room and have a chat with everyone in attendance, and he was incredibly welcoming and offered some words of advice on pursuing a job in the emergency services, and particularly the ambulance service. For me, Bill's words of advice eventually became a 20-year career. I have him to thank or to blame, depending on what kind of day I'm having at work. Bill himself joined West Midlands Ambulance Service as an ambulance man back in 1976 and was stationed at Dudley Ambulance Station. He spent a couple of decades on the front line as an emergency medical technician, responding to treble 9 calls before concluding his career as a press officer and a police liaison officer at ambulance headquarters, a total of 37 years service to the NHS. Bill embodied the definition of duty. He was kind, he was compassionate, he was a wonderful mayor and first citizen of our borough, and he was a thoroughly decent human being. I know I speak on behalf of colleagues at both this council and at West Midlands Ambulance Service in expressing our deepest condolences to Bill's family at this incredibly difficult time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Stanley for your very kind words in tribute to Bill Cody. And as Councillor Aston outlined, a true public servant, an individual who served as part of the ambulance service for 37 years. Now, I also remember Bill in the days of hair, I will say, Councillor Aston, who alongside yourself actually knew Bill before I entered this council chamber. Actually, when I was a branch secretary for Unison at the Dudley Group of Hospitals, and Bill was a newly formed member of Unison when Unison formed with three unions of NUPE, of COSI and of NALGO. And NALGO is very much the white-collar trades union of which Bill had just started to work as part of that. And we used to joke that the real union members were members of the blue-collar unions, the good old traditional, and we always used to joke the Unison stood for, until now I slagged off NALGO, which absolutely suited it perfectly. But there's two things I remember about Bill. Firstly, the advice he gave to a relatively new trade union secretary when we were in dispute with the government around PFI in the late 1990s leading into 2000. The second I remember about Bill is his year of mayor, again before I entered this council chamber. Now, many people in this chamber who've proudly undertaken that position of first citizen of this borough will know what an honour that is. And I don't think anybody felt as honoured as what Bill Cody actually thought when he became the first citizen. And as all mayors, he undertook those duties with diligence and ensuring that public service was at the forefront. He was mayor and my youngest daughter was born. And I remember, it's funny with Councillor Stanley, because Councillor Stanley's the mayor that both of my daughters refer to when he had the esteemed privilege. But Bill was the first mayor of this borough that both my children actually met in person. Now, he served this authority as a Labour councillor, firstly in Netherton and Woodside, then latterly in Wordsley. And he wasn't necessarily the party political animal that some of us are within this chamber. But let us be under no illusion that Bill Cody, who often referred to me that he was actually related to Wild Bill Cody, don't you know, had a very strong set of principles. He was Labour through and through. And for decades after he started serving on this council, he would still be the wise counsel that many of us on our side would ensure. And as Councillor Stanley outlined, his ongoing commitment as part of the previous mayor's group that this council has proudly endorsed over recent years, allowed Bill to continue to show his commitment to public service. Bill Cody, the man, will be sorely missed. May he rest in peace, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Judy Foster.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was quite a shock to receive news about Bill Cody's passing, because he's had relatively recent contact with the Labour Party, and he has been active even since he retired from frontline politics. And I've been writing a tribute to him as a press release, and I was trying to find out originally when he was mayor, and I thought, well, I remember his year as mayor vividly, so it must have been while I've been on the council, 2002, 3, 4, whatever. And then I found out actually he was mayor before I got onto the council. That's how much he had a profile during his mayoral year. I wasn't even on the council, and I remember how active he was in the press. The leaders mentioned about his connections with Wild, you know, with Wild William Cody, the entertainer, and so that just shows you how much he threw himself into that role. And when he was no longer a councillor, he continued to be active, as Councillor Stanley said, in the network of mayors that step up when the current mayor and deputy mayor are not available. So I want to place on record my thanks to Bill for being an exemplary councillor, an exemplary Labour Party activist, and an exemplary mayor. I think he's done the borough proud in that role, and may he rest in peace, and commiserations to his family. Thank you.
Councillor Kettle.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, in rising to pay respects to Bill, Bill and I were friends for many years. A modest, decent, respectable man who had his principles, as was stated, and I fully concur with everything that's been said today. It's very difficult to rise and be adequate for a man as decent as Bill. Just a few words that in public service, personality shouldn't come into it, and it didn't with Bill. We were great friends, probably for 15 years on and off, and I'm very saddened by his passing. It seems remarkably early in his life to go the way he has done. It's very sad, but a man I had a lot of respect for, Madam Mayor. Very saddened at his passing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kettle, and thank you for all of the lovely comments that have been made this evening. It just shows what a well-missed gentleman he will be. Moving on, the Civic Carol concert will be held at 7:30 p.m. on Friday the 15th of December at St John the Baptist Church, Halesowen, and it would be lovely to see as many of you there as possible. All members have been sent an email about the Dudley Care Experienced Young Person Christmas Gift Appeal. The Council supports this campaign to ensure that every single care experienced young person has a gift for Christmas. I would ask members to support and publicise this appeal if you haven't already done so, please. Members of the Council, can I now welcome representatives of the Care Experience Service who have come to speak to us about the impact that having a protected characteristic has on young people they work with. Here tonight are Gail Barry, Survey here, Laura Paul, Cassandra Fennell and Kevin, a young person who will talk to us about how he has been supported by the teams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gail Barry and I had the privilege of being the service manager for children in care for the last 5 years. It was amazing that in the summer this year, Dudley Council made being care experience a protected characteristic here in Dudley. There are now over 55 councils that have done the same, and many more will follow in Dudley's footsteps, I'm sure. This means, as a council, we promise to consider the impact of our policies and decisions on all those with protected characteristics, and this now includes our young people who have been in our care. And for that, we as a service are very grateful. I am responsible for those young people who become care experienced at the age of 16. We currently have 117 16 to 17-year-olds in our care in Dudley. We support them to think about the next stages of their lives and what ambitions they have for the future. Our young people in Dudley are very ambitious, and I have young people who want to go to university to study sciences, the law, business, sports. Young people also want to work as social workers, horse trainers, accountants, vets and nurses. It is my responsibility with my service to do all I can to make the dreams and ambitions of our young people a reality. And now, with the Council's full support with protected characteristics, I feel I am not alone in my corporate parenting responsibilities. All of Dudley Council now understand the importance of supporting our care experienced young people to thrive, as they are our next generation here in Dudley. I'll pass you on to Sive, who can talk a little bit more about the over 18 children and young people.
Thank you. Yes, it is a privilege to work with our care experience. It's an honour. We currently have 388 young people who we work with and offer support in relation to housing, education, developing independence and emotional wellbeing support. 115 of those care experience are 16 and 17-year-olds, and we work very closely with Gail and the team to make sure that the transition is supportive and effective. We have 2 teams and 17 young people YPAs who offer support to our care experience. And our offer is as follows. We offer priority housing and work closely with our housing colleagues, where we have a dedicated YPA to support this. We offer a grant of $3,000 to move, so our young person are supported into their new home. We have a dedicated support for our young people with education, and we work very closely with our virtual school and connections team. We have currently 22 young people who are at university. We have access to leisure facilities in Dudley, and with the work we've done with our health partners, our young people and care experience now have free prescriptions. Council tax is paid for, although we are working closely with other local authorities to make sure that our children in their local authorities also have that exception. There's a lot that we've done, but as corporate parents, we can do this together to ensure that our children get the best outcomes possible. Recently, we acquired a new drop-in centre, and that has been such an success. We had 4 young people cooking meals there, not only developing their independence and enjoying food together, but also having that sense of working together and meeting other young people. We have monthly care experience meetings where our young people can share what's going well, but also what partners can offer in terms of support. We have a Star of the Week for care experience, and something simple as working with professionals and our children working together with us is an achievement. We had another young person who got Employee of the Year award for working in McDonald's. What an achievement that was. In relation to protected characteristics, our young people feel absolutely in awe that this has been achieved by Dudley. We have two young people, one that I'm going to read a letter out to you, but also Kevin, who will be sharing his experience with you. So this is a letter from Callum. He can't be here with us today. And this is what he's saying in terms of his experience as a care leaver or care experience. Hi there, my name is Callum and I'm a former care experience. As there is in life, there's lots of positives and negatives in the situation I have faced, but with the extra support from Children's Services, there's been much positive to think about and say. We have free prescriptions, we have free leisure activities, we have the gym at Duncan Edwards, and it's been so positive for us that we can also have support through achieving a housing grant when we move into new homes. We get help with universities and accommodation and council tax. This has really helped with the current living costs. It's made things so much easier for me and my partner. Sometimes things aren't so good, but I actually believe by having a protective characteristic, it will make a difference. Just to say some of the things that haven't been always too well, when I first started college, I think the assumption was made that I probably would have behavioural problems. And hopefully a protective characteristic will change that. When my daughter was born, I understand that the hospital wanted to know whether I could care for my child, and they wanted to check with my care advisor that I could do that. Hopefully that will change, because I don't want anyone to judge me that because I'm a care experience that I wouldn't be able to care for my child. And I'm really pleased that we now have a protected characteristic that will make people more aware of our experiences. It will be a good thing, and I actually think it will make a difference. Thank you. I'm going to now hand you over to Kevin, and he's going to share his experiences, what's positive and what he thinks about protective characteristic. Thank you, Kevin.
Hello, my name's Kevin. I am a care leaver. I'm care experienced. I'm 19 years old, so I've been through sort of the different stages of being a care leaver, and I've had that experience. However, I have been extremely privileged and extremely lucky as a care leaver, because I haven't been discriminated, but I've heard stories from friends who are care leavers that really like shocked me at how they were treated and how they were sort of put in an unfair position. And I think making being a care leaver and care experienced a protected characteristic is really important, because it is when you've had so much happen in your life where you've had to move. Some people have moved from place to place. It makes things so much easier when you have support with you, when you have a YPO like Cass, who, you know, help you with things that otherwise you're expected to do independently, and it sort of improves your sort of way of living almost. I think if I didn't have the support I did, I would be in both mentally and physically in a lot worse position than I am now. And there are many improvements to be made. I think there are many things that I wish could have gone differently and could have just, you know, been easier in general. But I think the Dudley Council has done a very, very good job so far with care leavers and care experienced, and I am happy to be a care leaver under the Dudley Council, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the capital programme monitoring, I call on the leader.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I move that the recommendations of the cabinet be approved and adopted.
Is there a seconder?
Formally seconded, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Catherine Baton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wish to move an amendment to the capital monitoring programme and have item 6 on page 23 removed from this report and deferred to a further meeting. At a time when all non-essential spend in the council has been halted due to the financially precarious nature of this council, I'm concerned at the proposed 20k cost towards the viability and financial impact study into a hotel and ice rink. The West Midlands Growth Company, who have agreed to pay the initial 50k for a feasibility study, have in the last 12 months received circa £16 million worth of public funding in a bailout from the Combined Authority and Commonwealth Games legacy funding. Obviously, Commonwealth Games legacy funding means that that money then isn't available to go into our communities. I'm not aware previously that Dudley has ever benefited from the West Midlands Growth Company, and I believe that they should be footing the bill for the entirety of the studies that are being proposed. I also believe a clear and transparent and accountable decision-making process on the future of the ice rink and hotel needs to be produced. After all, Thurrock Council got into Section 114 territory on the back of very unwise capital investments. To summarise, I propose that A, further discussions take place with the West Midlands Growth Company to cover the full cost of the feasibility work, and that B, a decision-making framework that includes the leaders of both groups and that gives public scrutiny to the findings of the feasibility study before any actions are agreed, is brought back before this council. I'm sure Councillor Harley in his reply to me will say that this is due to a lack of ambition on my part, but actually the motion is to add a layer of fiscal responsibility to this council that is obviously teetering on the edge of grave financial difficulties. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Baton. Do you have a seconder?
Yeah. Madam Mayor, the main report is paused while the debate on the amendment commences. Thank you.
Do we have any other?
Leader's right to reply.
No. Councillor Harley, do you wish to reply?
The Mayor, it's maybe not a lack of ambition by the party opposite, but it is a lack of it's just incredible that you want to stop spending £15,000 to £20,000 and put at risk a project that is worth in excess of £20 to £25 million. A project that this authority will have to put very little, if any, investment. Now, there is a feasibility study going on with the West Midlands Growth Company that they are by and large funding, which the data to date shows that the ice rink is extremely feasible. Maybe a question mark over Planet Ice's business model to put a 4-star hotel in situ on top of the ice rink. But their business model also has 60 to 80 residential units built in around that ice rink. That will help subsidise the hotel. But that is their business model, not ours. Our commitment is to help prove the feasibility. That is being done as we speak. This nonsense from the opposition helps delay that and probably explains why regeneration under their watch was dither, delay, no delivery. Because they were more concentrated on having meeting after meeting, focus group after focus group. It's just getting on, attracting that private sector investment in order to deliver. Now, I believe that the ice rink is the game changer for this town centre. It's something new. It's something we don't massively invest in. Someone else picks up the tab. But it brings in that footfall needed to regenerate the remainder of the town centre. So it will mean additional food and beverage in and around that ice rink of the town centre. It means King Street and other areas around that area having a great uplift. So, Madam Mayor, my group will not be supporting this amendment at all. As regards the West Midlands Growth Company, I'm not surprised that Councillor Baton wasn't aware of what benefits Dudley has got from the Growth Company, as if you go through the minutes of the Growth Company, there was very little interchange and dialogue between previous Labour council leaders and the Growth Company. In fact, I'm probably the only council leader in recent years to attend Growth Company meetings in Coventry and Birmingham, both online and in person at Coventry. If you're not there, if you're not attending, if you're not in with those meetings, can you blame the Growth Company for not being interested in Dudley? Under our watch and our administration, we do attend, we do have dialogue with the Growth Company, Neil Rami, who's the Chief Executive of the Growth Company, and we are getting a record amount of investment and interest from people who want to come and invest in this borough. And that is thanks to our dialogue and the work of the Growth Company. And it shows complete and sheer ignorance from the party opposite. And I could say more, Madam Mayor, about the investment that isn't just potential, but is actually coming, in particular, to Brierley Hill and the Merry Hill Centre. And that is as a result of the West Midlands Growth Company. And it shows a complete lack of ignorance on the party opposite. And my group will not support this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Peatlow.
By Councillor Baton, and it's really just with regard to a couple of the comments that was made by the leader of the council, Patrick, because I think it's a perfect example that the ruling group simply do not get the financial position of this authority. Now, what Councillor Baton is outlining is around fiscal responsibility, and I'm quite sure many people watching this will be absolutely amazed with regard to when they read in the national press about the political party of fiscal responsibility. And it's us who would often be labelled as the people who would be not prioritising that, to be the party laying it down very simply. So I'll put it in very simple words. This council is on the edge. And it may be a small amount of money at this point, but the government, your government, gave millions of pounds via the route to the Growth Company. And I do not think it is absolutely strange to say, well, before we commit our £15,000 to £20,000, let's ensure the Growth Company, who've just been given a bong by this government, put that £20,000 forward. Now, the leader of this council then spoke about the importance of attending strategic meetings and the importance of the Conservative administration supporting them. Now, that may well be, Patrick, with regard to external meetings, but my understanding is when we look at internal growth, when we look towards forging the future, for example, the leadership of this administration haven't turned up to a meeting in over 18 months. So when we look at that, we should look towards some consistency. Indeed, the only politician that I'm aware of who's been attending Forging the Future meetings is sitting right to my left, and certainly a commitment that the leader of the group of this group will be attending in the future. One meeting. Exactly, exactly. So the leader of this administration has not been to a meeting in over 18 months of Forging the Future. If that is incorrect, Patrick, please... Did I say deputy leader? Oh, I mean, yeah. Patrick, you very successfully moved me on from the point that I was saying, but I will reiterate it because I think it gives me the perfect opportunity to say so. The leader of this administration takes strategic responsibility that highly it cannot even attend Forging the Future meetings. That seems to have been accepted. We then move on to the issue around that, because all the amendment is asking for, that the pace doesn't need to change, it's just the direction of the money needs to change, and that we need further scrutiny on our pounds, shillings and pence. And if the leader of that administration doesn't get it, and his group vote with the leader that doesn't get it, then we on this side will continue to maintain our fiscal responsibility and point out the errors of your ways. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Paul Bradley.
I just want to clear up something. I don't really jump on pedantism very often, but we've had 3 meetings of the Forging of Future Executive Board. I've been to 2. Unfortunately, on one of them, I was ill, because it does happen sometimes. As I understand it, in the world of pedantism, the deputy leader that has been at the Forging of Future Executive Board, has only ever done it on Teams. I've been there. I've also been to the Business Champions. I've also been to when we were creating a noun, so the supplementary meetings. I've been to all of them, apart from one when I was ill. So, no, I disagree with that one. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, we now put the amendment to the vote.
All those in favour of the amendment from Councillor Cathy Baton? Have a show of hands, please. Would you rather it on the... Yeah, we'll use the electronic voting. I didn't think you'd want to, because of... The amendment is not carried. So moving on to the original report. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Oh, right to reply.
Project. When councils are in financial straits, and the majority of English councils are, it's important we have that cross-party working. But that is not cross-party working. That is politics at its worst, Madam Mayor. This is an important strategic project. We can't have any delay. And to further compound the ignorance of the members opposite, there is an offer from the developer here, the investor here, to give the council £1.3 million upon completion. £1.3 million totally dwarfs the ridiculous posturing that we should withdraw £20,000 of our contribution to the West Midlands Growth Fund surveys and reports. £1.3 million as against £20,000. Absolutely ridiculous, and shows the party opposite, still after all these years in opposition, still doesn't understand regeneration. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Moving on to the appointment of the Director of Public Health and Wellbeing, I call on the leader, Councillor Patrick Harley.
Madam Mayor, I move that the council, where am I? Madam Mayor, members of the council, I move that the recommendation of the Appointments Committee be approved and adopted. Thank you.
Is there a seconder?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. No other speakers. I call on the leader to reply. All agreed. That is carried. Notices of motion. Can I remind members that under Council Procedure Rule 12.5, the maximum time allowed to deal with all notices of motion is 30 minutes. If the notices of motion are not dealt with within this period, they will be referred to the next ordinary meeting of the Council. So members will recall that the telecommunication company's planning issues motion was discussed at the last meeting of the Council. For the avoidance of doubt, the debate is now on the amendment moved by Councillor Cat Eccles. Can I invite members to indicate if they wish to speak on the amendment?
Councillors, could I remind you to put your microphones on? The viewers on webcast won't be able to hear you. Thank you.
Councillor Eccles, do you wish to remove the amendment? Thank you. So I call on as the mover of the original motion to exercise his right to reply to the amendment. Councillor Patrick Harley.
The support of the vast majority of members in the chamber, and it's a simple amendment which we just removed the last 2 points, those being instructing the Chief Executive to write to the Secretary of State for levelling up housing in communities, calling for the government to support the telecommunications infrastructure bill. I understand those private members' bills have now fallen, so that part of the motion would be pointless, and also instruct the Chief Executive to write to the Chief Executive Risk, asking for the broadband rolled out to be halted across the borough until a method of consultation can be found that is approved by members. I do believe that Brisk have massively improved that communication effort with members and the public alike, so I believe that those two, if they are removed, leaves us with the first two, which falls on the authority of the council to publish a question and answer page on the council's website, and also issue the same question and answer advice in the next edition of Your Borough, Your Home. And if that amendment can be approved, Madam Mayor, I'm sure we can move on quickly. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, you will now debate the amendment to the motion.
Do we have a seconder?
Thank you. Apologies. Madam Mayor, you will now debate the amendment to the motion.
Do we have anyone that wishes to speak on the amendment? No. So I call on Councillor Ryan Priest as the mover of the original motion to exercise his right of reply to the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm supportive of the amendment, so I'll keep it short and sweet and let things carry on.
Where? The amendment will now be put to the vote. Are we doing it electronically? All those in favour? Aye. Okay, so do I need to do this one then? No. So moving on to the next one, bring Dudley Town Football Club back home. I call on Councillor Shaukat Ali to move the motion in his name as set out on the agenda.
Sorry. Sorry, Madam Mayor, you need to vote on the substantive.
All those in favour of the substantive, yeah, that as well. Substantive. That is carried. So moving on to the Dudley Town Football Club back home, I call on Councillor Shaukat Ali to move the motion in his name as set out on the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a great honour, privilege and pride to present a motion to bring back Dudley Town Football Club to its rightful place right here in Dudley. A motion that holds great significance for our borough, and I hope that everyone will support it tonight. Madam Mayor, a club that boasts a proud history spanning an impressive 135 years, with its journey starting in 1844. In 1932, its home ground was founded on what is now known as Castlegate Business Park, the site of the Village Hotel, Castlegate Showcase Cinema, restaurants and businesses. When the ground was built, it boasted and boosted local economy as it offered jobs to unemployed people. The opening match was attended by over 16,000 people, highlighting the deep-rooted passion and support for the club and the game. In the 1981-82 season, the 1,800-seater stadium then was refurbished with the addition of floodlights, PA system, press box and a VIP section. Club's achievements include being drawn in the first round of the FA Cup in the 76-77 season, witnessed by a crowd of 5,000 passionate fans, and promotions in both the 81-82 and the 84-85 seasons, marking a clear path towards a better and brighter future. Madam Mayor, however, sadly in 1985, disaster struck when the mine works underneath the grounds collapsed, leaving a massive crater. The Birmingham Mail described it, and I quote, "The day a hole closed a football sports ground forever," end of quote. Not only did this tragic incident impact the football ground, it claimed one of the finest county cricket grounds too. It was a day when the fate of football, cricket and other potential sporting activities at that site came to a devastating end. Ever since, the club has been without a permanent home ground and has been playing outside of the borough in Willen Hall over the last 3 to 4 years. Madam Mayor, recently, after 38 years, the club achieved promotion to the Premier Division of the Midlands Football League. On behalf of Dudley residents and each of us, our heartfelt congratulations to the club officials, players, supporters and fans. Madam Mayor, the motion has 4 strands. The first one is about bringing Dudley Town Football Club back home and work with the club to identify a suitable location for their home ground. The leader said he had identified a potential site for a new ground. I welcome this if he has achieved this, and this motion sets in stone the council's commitment to realising this dream. The second element is about making arrangements to celebrate the club's promotion, and I believe a walk along the marketplace with people lining the street would inspire a whole generation about the club's history, achievements and existence. The third element is acknowledging and celebrating significant achievements of our sporting heroes and sports clubs routinely, so that it goes a long way to boosting morale and inspiring sporting heroes of the future. And finally, a cross-party, this is the 4th element of the motion, a cross-party working group to develop an ambitious sports strategy that will foster growth, develop and promote sports across the borough. This will put flesh on the bones of the pitch strategy that was agreed 4 to 5 months ago. Madam Mayor, members of the council and residents, it is now time for us to rectify the injustices suffered by Dudley Town Football Club. It is time to restore the pride and unity this club brings to our community. By bringing the club back to Dudley, we not only honour its rich history, but also provide a beacon of hope for future generations. I urge each and every member in this chamber to support the motion and stand with me in solidarity for the return of Dudley Town Football Club to the borough. Let us show local residents that our town stands united, ready to embrace our sporting heritage and create a brighter future for the club. Madam Mayor, I move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Damien Caulfield.
Bring an amendment to the motion. Point one, that we alter it, that we acknowledge the significant direct work that the leader, the Cabinet Member for Highways and Environmental Services and Dudley's MP, Marco Lungi, have done with the club directly. Thank you.
Is there a seconder to that amendment?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Madam Mayor, we will now debate the amendment to the motion. Councillor Harley.
Councillor Patrick Harley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was for the original motion, but never mind. Yeah, I'd like to thank Councillor Ali for actually changing the wording of his original notice of motion, because I think that does, in fact, recognise the work across the political groups on this. But Councillor Culver's quite right. The local MP has had a significant amount of workload in trying to resolve this particular issue. There is a ground identified that could potentially be used, obviously not for the current season because that's too late, but potentially for 24-25 oncoming season. Unfortunately, because they've gone up a step in the non-league football pyramid, it would require some changes to that ground. Unfortunately, the council won't have the resource, if we listen to the debate that we had previously, in order to implement these changes. So there would have to be some funding from the club themselves. However, we are awaiting the specification and details because the games at the level they are playing at now and aspire to play at the future, the grounds, or the ground in particular that we're looking at, it just doesn't meet that criteria. So there would have to be some investment to make sure that they did and they could play the games there. Apart from that, I'm happy to support the motion and the amendment. This is a good thing. I would raise a point with Councillor Ali about recognising our sporting heroes. On the wall just outside this chamber, there is a young lady who achieved absolutely fantastic things in tennis. And we gave her the Freedom of the Borough, Joanne Wiley, not so long ago now. And I'm sure if there are any other local sporting heroes, and I'm looking at Councillor Phipps over there, he mentioned one to me just last week, I'm sure we can recognise their achievements too. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ali, you have the right to reply to the amendment. When you're ready.
Yeah. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think in terms of the motion, I mean, we first presented this back in July, and it sat with the leadership up until this point, not even having the courtesy to reply to the amendment we put forward straight after the meeting in July. So that shows the lack of interest in this. And he talks about cross-party working, and this is his way of cross-working party. No kind of a dialogue, no communication. Madam Mayor, the motion before the council is perfectly fine. It says to acknowledge the efforts of all politicians across the political spectrum. So it covers that. Therefore, I'm not prepared to accept the amendment.
We now go to the vote.
Councillors, if you'd like to vote on the electronic system for the amendment. The amendment is carried.
So the amendment it takes the place of the original motion and becomes the substantive. So all those in favour of the substantive, could you please... There's no current speakers.
No speakers. No speakers. Councillor Harley.
Councillor Patra Harley.
To coin a phrase from Tim Crumpton, or Les Jones, I wasn't going to speak further on this issue. However, I have to take issue with what Councillor Ali said. To suggest that we don't care and have done nothing on this issue, while he's been sitting there every 4 or 5 months waiting for a full council meeting to stand there for 5 minutes and preach to us what we should be doing with Dudley Town Football Club. We've actually, behind the scenes, been getting on with the job of trying to bring Dudley Town home. That's the reality. As we said on the previous debate, they dither, delay, they waffle, and in the end fail to deliver. We're delivering and we'll bring Dudley Town home. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sean Keasy, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak on this, but after what I've just seen, I've got to put my 2 pennies in. What I will say is that I have witnessed Councillor Harley working hard to try and get Dudley Town back into Dudley, so I'm not going to say that he didn't, but I've also seen politicians from all sides who don't need to be named in a sycophantic amendment, which kind of leaves a bad taste in the mouth. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Keasy. Councillor Ali, right to reply.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, I think I've said what I needed to say in terms of the motion as it stands, and the fact that talking about, I mean, the motion said all politicians. We don't need to name any members of Parliament. And as for Marco Longi, I think Madam Mayor, he is on his numbers in terms of his days left for him. So he's counting the days. So in terms of his affiliation to this town, none. Where does he live? In Warsaw. He himself says he spends almost 80% of his time in Parliament. Probably 19.99% he spends Warsaw. 1% of the time he comes across to Dudley. And then if anyone raises any issues with him, he says it's not under his jurisdiction. What a waste of time. Marco Longi, the Tory party and the Tory group opposite.
Thank you, Councillor Ali, for your remarks. So moving to the substantive motion, it will now be put to the vote. All agreed? Thank you. So I now call Councillor Karen Westwood to move the motion of the glass industry in her name as set out on the agenda.
Mayor, in forwarding this motion, I hope to convey and ascertain that this council recognises the significant beneficial impact that the glass industry has within our borough. It shapes our history and plays an important role in our current culture and heritage agenda. We can be proud that this industry has played such a significant part of our heritage for over 400 years. It continues to be a source of inspiration and education for future generations. As a volunteer at the Stourbridge Glass Museum, I can vouch for the concise education package being offered there. Outreach to local schools and educational facilities is high on their agenda. As it inspired and spanned many great artists in the past, locally bred names such as Northwood, Woodall and Carder, so this great industry continues to produce aspirational young artists, all producing amazing contemporary designs and pieces. With 3 major glass attractions within the Crystal Mile alone, this borough is able to showcase glass manufacturing, past and present, aiming to connect our communities to their legacy of past family members who made Stourbridge glass recognised the world over. What is the reason for this motion now, you may ask? I am forwarding this now so that the Council resolves to work with all our partners, including the Hearts Council and appropriate revenue organisations, to ensure the International Festival of Glass and the Biennale remains in Stourbridge due to its historical importance. 2024 will be the last guaranteed festival in the borough. The Ruskin Centre no longer feel it is equipped to host such a huge event. As a result, the festival has gone to the Glass Art Society with no guarantee that it will stay in Stourbridge. Volunteering during last year's festival, I saw firsthand the positive economic impact and huge footfall, plus the cultural and historical benefits to the borough. I would hope that this council will do all it can to maintain a local festival of glass for our local community, so that it becomes a legacy for future generations. I hope this council will support this motion. Losing this great asset would be unthinkable. Wouldn't you agree? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Westwood. Do you have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Eccles. That's seconded. Councillor Harley.
No amendments. Just two it's a complimentary quote, if I may. One is to yourself, Madam Mayor. You must be the one mayor in the whole history of Dudley that's got through notice of motion so quick. We can't write them quick enough for us to deal with you in the chair, Madam Mayor. It's great. The second one is to Councillor Westwood. As a new and inexperienced member, to get up for the first time in the chamber and speak and to bring a notice of motion is no mean feat. So congratulations to yourself. And I don't want to be patronising on that, but to new members, it is daunting to get up and speak in this place. So well done. I also think it's an excellent notice of motion, and I think one that we can all wholeheartedly support. We have a great heritage and glass industry to be proud of. Again, onto the West Midlands Growth Company. We did put a bid in through the Commonwealth Games Legacy Fund to fund the Stourbridge Glass Festival, International Glass Festival, for the next couple of years. And I think it was a bid of £350,000, and we weren't successful. We were successful on the bidding for the GP Cycle Grand Prix in July, and also to fund Musicom, not only for next year, but also for this year's costs. So that's a massive boost to what should be a great Black Country weekend for this borough. However, because there are still funds available from that Commonwealth Games Legacy Fund, after talking with Neil Rami from the Growth Company, we believe there is a pot there that we can possibly apply for to help do exactly what this notice of motion says. And certainly for myself as leader, attending those meetings in person, not visually, I'll make sure that we do our best in Dudley to try and keep the Glass Festival here where it belongs, where it all began, here in this borough. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Harley. Councillor Paul Bradley.
Yep, thank you, Madam Mayor. Wholly support this motion. I think it's a very good one, and yes, I do agree. Well done. You're new to the club, as it were. For myself, I think it's fantastic in the sense that it is over 400 years old, that we've been looking, we've had glass industry in this area because of all the raw materials that we've got locally. So, on a personal note for me, my first ever job in the last century, just to make everyone feel a little bit younger, when I was 16, I did work in the Royal Brierley Crystal area. It was only for a couple of months because I wasn't very good at getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, but I do talk about that from time to time. I have always taken a keen interest in the festival and the biennales that have come and gone from Ruskins. And I too was a little bit, after 20 years, since 2004, all of a sudden, Ruskins isn't going to look after it anymore. So I was a little bit concerned about that. So when I saw this motion, I was like, whoa, straight away, brilliant. As the leader has alluded to, that we are looking at things in the terms of the funding. I do know that because of the with the Black Country Festival, that's okay, but I was saddened to see at the last Economic Growth Board that the festival hadn't got the funding. So I have been working with officers to see if we can do that, and I've had to write it down, but with the...
Councillor Bradley, can I just jump in? I do apologise. We are really short of minutes before the time is... So could we just...
I would like to move to that then.
Thank you. So kind. So, and now call on Councillor Karen Westwood to exercise the right of reply to the debate. Quickly. All those in favour of the motion? That has been carried. Moving on to questions from members under Council Procedure Rule 11. Following consultation with the group leaders, it is proposed to trial a different format for the question time session at this meeting. This will involve 1, a 30-minute time limit on the session, 2, the first 3 questions offered to the main opposition leader, 3, other members will then be invited to ask questions taking account of the list of members who indicate to speak. If the 30 minutes time limit is reached, any further questions can be submitted in writing. The usual process for 2 minutes per question, and any supplementary question will still apply. No written questions have been submitted in advance. I now call on the leader to move the formal suspension of the Council Procedure Rules. Councillor Harley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the Council, I move that under Council Procedure Rule 22.1, provisions of Council Procedure Rule 11 be suspended for this meeting to enable the revised question time session to take place as outlined by the Mayor. Thank you.
Is that seconded? Does the Council agree? Aye. That is carried. Can I remind the Council that the purpose of this session is for members to ask questions. When I call on members to ask a supplementary question, this must relate to the original question or the answer given. Councillor Peatler.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Firstly, before I go into the question, could I just thank the Leader of the Council for really constructive discussions remotely. We didn't actually have to meet in person to get to that. And hopefully, I know that Patrick will be eager to have feedback, as will I from my side as well. But it's a really positive move forward, I think, to try and bring this section of the council meeting and to amend and to update that. And so my absolute thanks to Patrick for both sharing your proposals and then for being able to get to the situation that we have today. It's really appreciated. My first question, just for ease, I will ask the first question myself. The second question will be asked by Councillor Shaukat Ali, and the third question will be asked by Councillor Sue Ridney, just so you can get your buttons ready. The first question for myself is, does the Leader of the Council agree with me that the current financial position of this Council is perilous?
I call on Councillor Patrick Harley to answer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Apologies. Yeah, yes, I do. It's not a Dudley alone issue. This is an issue that every council up and down the country faces. And some will be through for financial mismanagement, like Birmingham. Birmingham were given choices. They ignored them. Coventry went and bought luxury hotels when they shouldn't have done, because councils shouldn't be buying hotels. We've got choices. So we have choices available at our disposal. And I believe they will be tough choices for all members to have to make. But as we've seen up and down the country, ever-growing adult social care costs, and in our situation, that amounts to 75% of the issues that we are facing. It is down to adult social care and children's social care. So social care between adults and children's are probably approaching 80–85% of our additional spend. But that is the same in every other local authority. And we had Nottingham recently on Friday declare a 114. And what did the Leader of Nottingham say? It's down to adult social care. Now, that's a Labour-run authority, so I'm not going to sing their praises, but that leader's absolutely right. And unless the government whatever colour that government is, gets to grip with the nettle that is adult social care, councils up and down the country will continue to go to the wall, because we can plug this gap with a lot of difficult decisions, but it won't stop now. It will keep coming back, and you will have to keep feeding this beast that is adult social care. So we need real wholesale reform from central government to help councils deliver balanced budgets now and in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Lowe, do you wish to ask a supplementary question?
I will ask a brief supplementary question, if I may. Firstly, I'd like to thank Councillor Harley for his response. I think that's the first opportunity, or first occasion, we've heard the recognition of the perilous state of the finances within Dudley Council. And just leading on to that, would the leader agree with me that we require a far more robust approach to the very issues that Councillor Harley has outlined, and I agree with, to ensuring, for example, the resolution that was passed here several years ago with regard to the fair deal for Dudley is undertaken with regard to the real culprits, which is a significant underfunding of all local councillors since 2010. And would the leader of the council think that it's helpful that the leader of the opposition will happily join with you in taking that fair deal for Dudley direct to the steps of Westminster? And finally, if I may, it's linked to the question, but it's a statement, because I think it's an important statement for the whole of the council chamber to hear, that we on our side will work where we can in a collaborative manner with the ruling group to overturn and to put right this financial crisis that is being brought on largely by the current Conservative government, but as we recognise, in part with the missed opportunities over recent years of the lead member for finance opposite. Thank you very much.
Councillor Patrick Harley to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would agree with most of that, but what I would also say to the Leader of the Opposition is that we are still waiting for our settlement. And for me, that is unsatisfactory. And it doesn't matter whether it's been Blair, Brown, Cameron, May, whoever, at number 10. Dave Sparks had the right attitude. When he was leader of the LGA, he played it straight. Didn't matter that he was a Labour leader, he played it straight. And his words was, they shaft all of us here in local government. They really do. They do us all over, irrespective of whether it's a blue or a red government. What we need is to have our settlement really on the autumn statement time, because that then gives you guys, members, time to scrutinise what Cabinet is putting forward. Also because we'll probably get our settlement on the last working day of December, and then the civil servants will go off to their office party. And even if they do answer the phones, they won't be making any sense when they do answer. We probably won't either this side, but hey, never mind. But it's far too late. We need that settlement at the same time as the autumn statement so we can make the right decisions. We can scrutinise, and it also stops us making decisions and then rowing back at a later date because, hey-ho, they've managed to magic up an additional £3 or £4 or £5 million. That's not good governance. You know, we should be making decisions, sticking to them, scrutinising them. If they're bad ones, we can roll back. But if we believe in what we're doing, we shouldn't be swapping and changing simply because they've given us additional cash. But the government of the day, they need to do their bit, which is give us our settlement far, far earlier, and also for the full 3 years, so that we can plan. You wouldn't run a business the way you run a local authority. You need that stability to know you can make those long-term decisions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Shaukat Ali.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. We know and we have heard for the first time tonight an acceptance from the Tory leader that this Tory council is in financial crisis. And we know that there's a forecast £15 million deficit. This has come about as a result of their incompetence, financial mismanagement and short-term political self-interest. They never listened to us, Madam Mayor, when we pointed out the risks. When the auditors raised concerns, and in response to audit committee concerns, with one word response stated.
Have you got a question there, please,
Question
Councillor
is coming, Madam Mayor.
Thank you,
On top
Councillor
of this, the Tory mini-budget last year that crashed the economy didn't help the situation. And now we are faced with the consequences of that. Madam Mayor, can Councillor Steve Clark tell us, as of today, and in view of the Council's financial position, does he see the Council going bankrupt in 12 months' time, or in a position to be issuing a Section 114 notice? Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Ali, for that question. Councillor Clark to reply.
Thank you for your question. We have a challenging times in front, and because of the prudent way over the last few years that we have run the budgets, we do have a reserve at this point which enables us to deal with this issue at this time. The increase in costs of adult social care of £7 million has literally kicked us in the guts, and we have a challenging time because we have a limited amount of reserves. Now, the leader is absolutely right. We do need to have our settlement early. It's going to be the 22nd of December before we get our final our settlement. So in order for you guys to scrutinise what we are trying to achieve, really that settlement needs to be far, far earlier. But I think thanks to we have a little play, we have a little tolerance based on the fact the last 5 years we've built up decent reserves. But you're quite right, we have a challenging time. We have a challenge. We need your support. We need to make sure that we can set a legal budget for Dudley. So your question of, are we going to go bust in 12 months' time? We are trying to make the decisions now in order that we don't. But it is difficult. Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Ali, do you have a supplementary question to ask?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, in terms of Councillor Clark's comment about being prudent, I don't believe they have been prudent. We've seen the financial mismanagement.
Is that your question, Councillor
Yes,
Ali?
the question is coming, Madam Mayor.
Please stick to the question then. Thank you.
Yes, but the question has to be put in context, Madam Mayor. So that's what I'm trying to do, because otherwise it won't make sense. And I'm good that he's doing some work, but he doesn't give us a lot of assurance in terms of the council being in a financial crisis and bankruptcy. The reserves, or the level of reserves, and the external auditor's report tell a different story to what Councillor Clark is telling us. One of massive cuts that will need to be introduced to balance the books. Madam Mayor, can Councillor Clark tell us which services that our residents rely on is he planning to cut? Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Clark to reply, please.
What we've just been saying is that we have not received the full and final settlement. We haven't received that until the 22nd. We are hoping to not cut services, but we have a finite budget, so that we have to be prudent, we have to be careful, and we have to make sure that we as a council are financially stable. But I am confident that we won't be bankrupt in 12 months' time, or even in 114 territory, providing we keep control in May. And goodness help the borough if you guys take over in May.
Thank you, Councillor Clark.
Thank you.
Councillor Ridney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not going to make a difficult question. Earlier this month, I took part in the appointments committee for the Director of Public Health. Is there a problem? No? Okay. I took part in the appointments committee for the Director of Public Health. I was a little disturbed that I was sitting in a room with 7 male members and 1 female member. We were interviewing 2 female candidates, which to me, I can hold my own. I've been in this chamber quite some time, but it doesn't give a very good impression of this council. I mean, I don't know how many women there are within Dudley, but there's certainly more than 50%. If it goes by the classes that we see in schools, there seems to be more girls in the years than there are boys. So I would say there's probably more than 50% of this borough made up of women. So can I just ask that future appointment committees, and I'm not saying it caused any problems, the people gave apologies and we have to accept that. I was there as a substitute myself. But can we ensure that appointment committees have equal representation when it comes to appointments, please?
Thank you, Councillor Ridney. Councillor Harley, as chair of the appointments, to reply.
Madam Mayor, again, they don't get it on that side of the chamber. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, and on that side, they don't seem to know the difference. But it doesn't matter whether you're a male, female, what your race or religion is. If you are good enough, your ability and talent will shine through. And I look at this authority and I look at the senior officer team. We have a treasurer who is male, a chief exec who is male, and we have the director of adult social care who is male. Every other director is a female appointment. Appointed, I believe, by this administration. So the last thing we'll take lessons from is the nonsense that Councillor Ridney's just tried to impose on here. There are reasons why perhaps some of our female members of the Cabinet couldn't be in attendance. Some could be ill health, it could be work commitments. But whatever those commitments are, the substitutes on that committee, I'm sure, made the right decision on the day and will continue to do so. And I'm proud of the fact that even tonight, we've got our female Deputy Chief Exec helping our Mayor to officiate and chair this council meeting. We have an excellent Director of Children's Services in Catherine Driscoll. What Cathy is doing in housing is absolutely beyond belief. To turn that department around after the failure of so many male directors of housing, she's doing an absolutely brilliant job. And Mayada as well, well respected outside of the confines of this council house. This borough has a lot to be proud of, and this administration has a lot to be proud of with the people it's appointed who also happen to be female. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Sue Ridney, do you have a supplementary question, please? You go for it, Councillor Ridney.
Thank you. I don't believe I questioned the appointment of the director. I said that didn't cause a problem. What I'm saying is it does not give a good view of this borough, of this chamber, and there are more women obviously sitting on this side because we haven't ditched them yet, like someone has. But I just feel that all I was asking was for a reassurance that there would be equal representation on the appointments committee of our male and female elected members. I accept that people gave their excuses and I never said that I didn't accept that. And I don't like being insulted. I wasn't trying to stir, but I'm merely asking for a question that I was waiting for an answer. You've insulted everybody else. I dare say you just wanted to have a go at me tonight, but thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I please ask for that reassurance again?
Yes, Councillor Ridney. Councillor Harley, will you answer the question direct, please?
Madam Mayor, and no insult was intended, but the appointments panel, Madam Mayor, on the day is what it is. If cabinet members have to put their apologies in, they are substituted by other cabinet members. And I think to appoint senior positions to this authority, you have to select from the cabinet or shadow cabinet in Labour's case. That is the way this appointments panel operates, and so it should in the future. We need our senior members appointing our senior personnel. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Ryan Priest, please.
Nuisance off-road bikes plague our streets and our park in Woodescote. The reality is that until more resources allocated, there's very little that our local police teams can do. In July, the Labour Police and Crime Commissioner visited the ward and alluded to a plan to tackle the issue, but so far we've heard nothing. A few months ago, I wrote to the Police and Crime Commissioner asking for more funding to be allocated, and still we've heard nothing. Meanwhile, the issue gets worse and worse. There's been 43 reports of off-road bikes in Woollerscope Park in 2023, up from just 6 last year. We know where the addresses are. I've reported 3 of them myself. So it seems like the Labour Police and Crime Commissioner isn't interested. What work has this authority done to tackle the issue?
Councillor Harley to reply, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I must apologise. I didn't hear the start of your question, Ryan. Ryan, I do apologise. If you could allow Ryan to repeat that, please.
Councillor Priest, would you mind just repeating the beginning bit, please?
Yeah, so it's about the off-road bikes in Woollerscope, particularly in Woollerscope Park, but over in Wynod as well.
With Madam Mayor, so what I'll do, if I take this chat outside of the chamber, that I'm more than happy to support and assist where I can. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harley. Councillor Priest, do you have a supplementary question?
So would the leader consider co-signing a letter with me to the Police and Crime Commissioner asking for that resource to be allocated? And that's an open offer to the Leader of the Opposition and my ward colleagues as well.
Councillor Harley to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I said, I'm happy outside of this room to talk without making commitments on something I'm not quite up to speed with. But yeah, if we can help, we'll help. What I would say is from May onwards, when the electorate get a real choice on who they want to be their PCC, I'm sure if it's Andy Street who's returned as the PCC, we'll get a far better response from people of Stourbridge and the wider borders of Dudley. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Sean Keasy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Question to the leader, and this is a question that's been brought on by an answer that he's just given. We had a few speeches at the beginning from some great young people who were valuing the protected characteristics. Now, in answer to Councillor Ridney, you were extolling the virtues of how many females we employ in senior positions. I agree. But during the course of your answer, you flippantly and glibly insulted the non-binary community by saying they don't know whether they're men or women. That's wrong, Councillor Harley. Will you take this opportunity to apologise to that community? Thank you.
Councillor Harley to reply.
No insult intended. In fact, my barb, if you want to describe it as that, is really aimed at the Leader of the Opposition, not this one, but the National Leader of the Opposition, who doesn't seem to know his males from his females. But no, I won't be apologising directly because there was no insult intended. It was really a barb at the National Labour Party leader and his stance on this issue. Thank you.
Councillor Sean Keasy, do you have a supplementary question to ask?
Yes, Councillor Harley, I've always batted with a straight wicket. I've always tried to play things fair. But what you did earlier was against the protected characteristics. You used one part of the LGBTQ+ community to attack the Labour opposition and the question by Councillor Ridney. Now, I really would hope that you will take that and stand up now and apologise to the non-binary part of the LGBT community for the glib remark that you just made. You wouldn't have made it about women, you wouldn't have made it about black people, you wouldn't have made it about Muslims, so why did you make it about non-binary people? Please apologise, thank you.
Councillor Harley to reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I said, there is no apology needed because there was no insult intended. My attack on the opposition was at their main national leader, who has got into an awful mess over the last 18 months or so on this very issue. And as regards my record, I believe we've supported the LGBT communities. Indeed, we supported them heavily when you were a member of the party itself, Sean.
Thank you. Councillor Andrew Tromans.
For me to speak. I'll keep it nice and brief for you. It's recently come to light that more than 2,000 homes within this local authority's stock have a energy performance rating of less than C. With this in mind, is our party opposite relieved that the requirement for all social homes to have an EPC rating of C or higher does not come in force until 2030?
Thank you. Councillor Taylor-Charles to reply.
Sorry, Councillor Tromans, did you say are we relieved? I'm not quite sure of the point that you're trying to make, because relief on timescales is not relevant to our plan for our council homes at all. In fact, we're currently undertaking our stock condition survey, and we will do everything we can to get them all up to speed as soon as humanly possible, irrespective of the timescales of government. We want to do that as soon as possible. So the earliest that we can do it, we will do that.
Councillor Tromans, do you have a supplementary question to ask?
Thank you for that response. No, I have no doubt about the earnestness of it. At present, the renovation plans for this building include the installation of air source heat pumps, boiler optimisation and heat recovery ventilation. Does the Cabinet member agree that if thermal efficiency is good enough for the council house, it is also good enough for the council houses where our residents live? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tromans. Councillor Taylor-Charles to reply, please.
Yes, absolutely. In terms of efficiency on how we should be running both the council house and our council homes, we should be doing the best that we possibly can. Air source heat pumps and any of the associated measures that are going to make our properties energy efficient aren't suitable for all of our properties. We cannot make a blanket comment to say we will fit any of those measures that you've just mentioned into all of our council properties, because that's an unreasonable thing to request and suggest. What we are doing is we're working on all of our properties to make sure that they are all as energy efficient as possible. And that includes external cladding where necessary. It includes making sure that any newly replaced boiler systems are as energy efficient as possible, including windows and roof insulation and roofing itself. So there's a whole package of measures, and oversimplifying it to referring to what's being input into the council house just doesn't work across a stock of 21,500 properties, but we are doing everything we can to make our properties as energy efficient as possible.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor-Charles. Councillor Mark Westwood.
Madam Mayor, for allowing me to speak. I've had many people in Gornal, Woodsetton and in Gornal approach me concerning illegal and dangerous parking they are witnessing, with little or no action being seen from the enforcement teams. It was whilst I was chair of the Housing and Public Realm put to me that the enforcement team would go out to a private company due to the lack of headcount/action from the council's own enforcement team. Would the Cabinet member of Highways confirm the private company have taken on the role, and if they have, what has been the measure of success? And if they have not, what and where are the enforcement team, and are they fully manned to the 21 headcount that the officers stated were required to cover the borough?
Councillor Caulfield to reply.
So Westwood, for your question. Yes, we did. We have tendered out parking enforcement, and one company was successful in putting a bid in for that tender. But there was some contractual differences within the agreement, so it's have to have been re-tendered out again. So we're hoping now that I think that process has just finished at the end of November. So we should have an answer now very shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. Councillor Westwood, do you have a supplementary question?
I do indeed. So, yeah, I get it's gone out to tender, and we're waiting again. However, have we got the 21 staff that is required for carrying out the enforcements from the council team now? How many have we got?
Councillor Caulfield to respond.
To answer Councillor Westwood's question, no, we haven't at the moment. The council employ 15 parking enforcement operatives, but it's intended with the new contract, as he knows, that there'll be 21 full-time active enforcement officers available at every shift with the new contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Caulfield. There are no further questions, so that completes the question time agenda item. There is no urgent business, so that concludes this meeting of the council. And can I take this opportunity to wish you all a fantastic Christmas and a peaceful and prosperous New Year. Thank you.